On this episode, I'm going to show you how I'm going to change out this rotted post that's supporting this gable or this overhang. So stay tuned. Hi friends, welcome to Fix This House. If you're new to the channel, consider pressing the subscribe notification bell so you could always be in tune on DIYs, how-to videos, and product reviews that I do within this channel. So today's issue is that we have this rotting 4x4 pressure treated wood that's supporting this gable or this overhang in front of my house. The problem is that it's starting to crack and there's some stress areas and it's starting to rot. It's directly onto the soil, so every time that it rains, it gets saturated by rain, then it starts to get sunny and it dries it out, and this repeats over the season. Pressure treated wood is not permanent, so eventually it will start to crack. So this one post is supported by another post on the other end, but it's also supported by a beam, so this acts as a secondary. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to safely change this out and possibly change out the other side as well, but let's focus on this one. So let's get started. As you can see, I already started digging. Don't mind this. This is another issue that stay tuned for another video. This is a separate issue where this my drainage is going to my septic and starting to leak, so make sure you stay tuned for this video in the future. But let's focus on this one. We already started digging two sides. I'm gonna go and support this right first. Got the support post in place. I'm gonna take my level. That's good. Now we can start digging and get this post out. I want you to take a look at this. This is very mind-blowing. There's our septic drain pipe, cement running up to the septic tank, and here's that post. Given there is a beam right there supporting this weight here, secondary weight bearing. They filled it up with cement, but they put it right on top of this cement pipe. You're gonna put a load-bearing post right on top of a cement pipe. Tell me what is wrong with that. So now that we dug up and exposed the concrete, I'm taking my Sawzall and we are going to be cutting this to remove that block. Notice how that block is just sitting right on top of that concrete pipe. It's going to be a little bit heavy, so just be careful when lifting this. And we took out that concrete pipe. Like what I mentioned, check out that video on how I removed this and how I replaced that concrete pipe. I'm taking some of this sprinkler system piping because we don't use a sprinkler system anymore anyways. Here's that post that we're going to be taking out. It's all wobbling. And now this is the one that I'm going to be replacing the cement piping with, the PVC. Again, that's the video. Check it out after you watch this video on how I replace that cement piping into PVC. I'm using this Cobalt handheld Sawzall tool. It's really versatile and it's very easy to use, very compact as well. If you're interested on any of the tools I use in this video, I'll leave all the links on the description down below. Now I'm taking out that post, and I am actually going to be saving the fascia that's attached to this post. It's still in good condition. It's made out of real wood, so I'm going to be saving this. I'm just going to rip it off, and I'm going to put this aside once I actually put the new post on. This is going to go over that, and I'm just going to repaint it afterwards as well. So now that we have that post detached, it's time to take out the fascia as well onto that beam. I'm using my oscillating tool to get this off, to get the nice clean cuts. Now the strong tie is what's left over. I'm taking that off, taking off the screws. Same thing on the other side. And this is what it looks like now with that other support 4x4. And notice that I put these retaining wall blocks. This retaining wall blocks I had scrapped, or I had them laying around, so it's perfect size for what I need. I'm going to be using this as a protectant for that post to go over so that it doesn't crush this pipe, because I have no choice. I'm using some pavers as well to put over. Make sure that it's nice and leveled. I'm also leaving about a 3-inch gap, so in case there's any settling and if it does sink over time, it doesn't crush that pipe. Once that's nice and set, I'm going to be burying up to the paver level. So I'm using this 8-inch form tube. They come in 10-inch, 12-inch, depending on what size you need. For me, all I need is this size. I'm going to be temporarily putting this on top so that I can measure how much I'm going to be able to cut it. I'm going to be cutting it about the same height as my sidewalk. Very grateful for my son for helping me out. He's a great helper. There he is being silly. But yeah, he's a great help, and I appreciate every time that I get to spend with him. But yeah, so I'm just using this technique right here to form and mark the amount that I'm going to be cutting. I'm using just a regular saw, whatever you need to get it cut, and just cut the form. And for the rest, you can just save that for later on.
Can I have this?
Now I'm measuring how much I need for material. This came to close about 10 feet, so I got a 4x4 pressure treated wood. Make sure that the material that you get has this label right here, ground contact general use, because if you're going to be putting this straight to the ground, you need this type of wood. So I'm going to be taking my measurements, using my miter saw to cut this 4x4. I'm going to be attaching these strong ties. This is a 4x4. It's from Post to Post. It's by Simpson. Again, if you need any materials I use in this video, I'll leave the link on the description. I'm using these deck screws as well. They're about 1.5 inches. Installing this before I go and install it over to the actual beam itself. Do both sides. Got a little help from my wife. She's a great helper as well. So I'm going to be placing that on top of my form tube, and we're going to be sliding that right onto the beam. So once that's placed, make sure it is nice and centered on the bottom, and then attach it with your deck screws onto the beam as well. So that's how it should look like. Very simple, easy to use. Make sure you use those strong ties. Now looking all the way down from this pressure treated wood, it's nice centered on that form tube right on top of the paver that will support the weight. I'm using these shims so that I can level this in the right correct position that I need. I'm using a level because these will move if you don't have any type of support. So these shims will help me greatly. Measure both sides. Now I'm taking a 2x4 so that I can push this to center, and then attaching it with some screws so that I can have it nice and leveled and in the position that I want before I enter the concrete. Now I'm putting these rocks right around the form tube so that when I start filling in the dirt, it doesn't move around and I have it in a nice position. I'm using my tape measure so that I can have all the sides even before I start burying this form tube. Taking the rest of the dirt and filling in all the gaps. And just be careful when you're filling in the dirt around the form tube so it doesn't shift. Now I'm not going to be burying it all the way. I'm going to leave a little bit out exposed. I'm going to be using this fast setting cement. This will set in about 20 minutes, so you got to work fast. I'm only using one bag, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of water, and you know, it's all up to you what consistency that you want, but for me, I like it a little bit wet. Now I'm using my spade shovel just to start filling that in. Now it's going to be a little bit tough. You're going to have a little bit coming out. And I'm using a stick. Find any type of stick. I'm using this metal rod so I can poke underneath so I can get all the air out and the fill would evenly go around that form tube. Using my trowel and then start poking it again so they can get all the air out and you can have that nice even fill. Using my trowel to get all the finishing touches. You want to slope it down a little bit so when it starts raining you'll have a little bit of runoff. You don't want it perfectly flat. You want it sloping down. So after a few days of waiting, it finally hardened and dried. I'm taking off the support shims and the 2x4 as well. Now it's totally up to you if you want this much that extends out from the ground. Each customer is different, so if you're trying to do this to somebody, it's all their preference. For me, I want it to go up this high because I want this to be above the ground so that it doesn't get soaked when it starts raining. Especially this area gets a lot of rain and it starts pooling around this area, so I want to be safe and get it above ground as possible. And it kind of gives it a little bit of design anyways, and if I don't like it, I can just put plants around it. So I'm going down below and cut that form 2 right below the soil level, and after that, once I get that cut, I'm going to bury it with more dirt. So there's that new post, and this one I'll be replacing in the future, and I'll be doing the same exact thing. So if you found this video super helpful, friends, and you found big value to this, please hit that big thumbs up, press the subscribe and notification bell, leave me the questions down below if you have any, and I'll see you in the next one.